To order the meeting of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. Today is May 2nd, 2023, and the time is 9:33 a.m. This morning, let's begin with our invocation from Rabbi Mark Sack from Temple, Judea. Rabbi, would you please join us? Good morning.
In my synagogue on Saturday morning, we read that portion of Leviticus that contains those soaring principles of ethics. Don't put a stumbling block before the blind. Insult the deaf. The highlight, which occurs in the very center of Torah, is love your neighbor as yourself. What does that mean? How is it possible to love one neighbor as oneself? Well, I think the Torah is commanding us to use our imaginations. To love your neighbor as yourself means you must first imagine the world of the other and then ask, how would I want someone to treat me if the shoe was on my foot? My prayer for all of us today is that we use our imagination in our decisions that affect the lives of so many. What would I want if I were in that situation? May God give all of us the wisdom and the strength to pause, to wonder about the lives our decisions will affect, and then decide for them what we would want for ourselves. I think that is what God wants of us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. This morning, before we get into the ceremonial presentations, I would like to offer the county manager an opportunity to introduce a new member of his team.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, you'll notice we have a new face at the table with us here. Mr. Robert Cody has been promoted to the position of Assistant County Manager. You'll recall that in the most recent reorganization, Mr. Salyer is leading the team to help us manage the CDBG-DR program, which, as you know, is really complex, and it's going to probably be at least a 7-year process. So I can't tell you how happy we are to have Robert working in the office with us. He's, he came from the school district and has been with us for now about 3 years. 4, so close. And I don't, he's been our lieutenant director, and I don't think that operation has ever run more efficiently or better than it has on Robert's watch. So just wanted to introduce him this morning and welcome, Robert. We're glad you're here.
Welcome, Robert. Well, congratulations. All right, thank you, Mr. DeJarlais.
Yes, sir.
And this morning, we'll begin with our ceremonial presentations, and I would like to recognize Commissioner Pendergrass for Trauma Awareness Month.
Great, thank you, Chairman. If I could have the recipients here from Lee Health, they're here this morning: Katie, Sally, Sandy, Tracy, Tilly, anyone? Good morning, Sandy.
Hi.
Good morning, how you doing? I wasn't sure who was all with you this morning. So I'd like
I
to
have
take
two others that are wandering around looking for the courthouse.
Come on down, girls. We're going to read a resolution here to recognize all your efforts and everything you do, and thank you for the year. I'd like to read the resolution of the record. Whereas May is the National Trauma Awareness Month, established by Congress and signed by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to raise attention to the devastating impact traumatic injury has on individuals, families, and communities. And whereas trauma is the leading cause of death for all Floridians between ages of 1 and 44, with someone in Florida being traumatically injured every 12 minutes. Enough injuries to fill Hertz Arena 6 times each year. And whereas motor vehicle crashes and falls resulting in blunt force trauma make up more than 75% of all trauma cases treated at the Trauma Services District each year. And whereas in 2022, more than 3,777 patients in Southwest Florida were cared for in Lee County Trauma Service District. A national study shows that trauma mortality rate is reduced 15 to 20% when severely injured patients are treated in injuries in trauma centers. Whereas for the last 29 years, the Lee County Trauma District has provided optimal care for injured patients in the 5-county region from 2020 to 2022 has treated 55,217 patients. And whereas today we recognize Lee County Trauma Services District commitment to providing sustainable access to quality trauma care to improve the local quality of life, protect the public welfare through its accurate care, services, and injury prevention education to all the residents and visitors to 5-county region. Whereas we recognize all the dedicated first responders and medical professionals who serve the injured patients in our community. Now, therefore, be resolved, the Board of Lee County Commissioners, Lee County, Florida, proclaims the month of May 2023 as Trauma Awareness Month. Thank you again for everything. Signed by
Congratulations, guys. Take a picture with us. We'd love for you to join us for a picture. Down here. We'll do a group photo.
When?
Thank you. If someone would like to say something at the podium. Thank you very much.
Morning, Commissioners. We want to thank all of you for this Trauma Awareness Month proclamation. We also want to thank Cecil Pendergrass for his dedicated service to our Trauma Regional Advisory Council for the past numerous years. We're happy to have you on that. And we want to thank our very good partners here in Lee County and our other counties, which are our law enforcement, fire department, and EMS, because without them, we would not be the trauma center that we are today. So thank you.
Thank you for being there for us.
You guys, congratulations.
Thank you, Chairman. It's one of those things you hope you never need, but if you ever need it, they're there for us. So
Absolutely.
provide great care.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, I'd like to actually ask all the folks, Deb, Camilla, and all the folks from Coalition for a Drug-Free Southwest Florida to come to the podium as I read into the record a resolution on National Prevention Week. So, Coalition for a Drug-Free Southwest Florida. And I'll have you guys join us at the podium. I'll read the resolution into the record, and then we'll take a group picture, and then we'll have a spokesperson say a few words. All right. Good morning, team. How's it going? Good. Good. Thank you for the work that you guys do. I'll read the resolution now. It says, whereas substance misuse and mental health problems affect all communities nationwide, and according to a 2021 national survey on drug use and health, an estimated 61.2 million Americans ages 12 and older used illicit drugs in the past year. Additionally, in 2021, 8.7 million Americans misused prescription pain relievers. Whereas the impact of mental and substance misuse disorders apparent, in our own local community, an estimated 13.5% of Lee County citizens used illegal drugs in the past year. And whereas with the commitment and support, these and other substance use and mental health issues can be prevented by showcasing the work of our partners in prevention, and we can confront the societal challenges surrounding substance misuse together while celebrating stories of prevention. And whereas through these efforts, people become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental health and substance use disorders, equally important, community members from all walks of life learn how they can help implement prevention strategies and showcase the effectiveness of evidence-based programs. And whereas the small daily actions done by individuals combined with the actions of families, communities, and coalitions come together to make up the larger movement of prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida proclaims the week of May 7th through 13th as National Prevention Week. We encourage and call upon all of our community to join us in this week in celebrating the compelling programs and events that support increasing awareness of and action around mental health and substance use disorders. It was executed this second day of May by me, the chairman. Congratulations, y'all. Thank you for the work that you do, and please join us up here. There you go. And if we could have a spokesperson say a few words for us.
This is Patty. She does all the work at Drug House Odyssey for us, so I'm so happy she's here with us today.
Patty, we're glad you're here too.
Their boots on the ground making us look good.
There you go. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Morning.
As board chair, I just want to say thank you for the recognition you give us. Thank you for your continued support. It really goes a long way. In a community, in a time where we're really fighting branding. I mean, if you think about it, all of us that drove here this morning, we drove past marijuana shops, we drove past various other things. We're constantly fighting that message to the youth on what's right, what's wrong, what's dangerous, what's not dangerous. So I think all the little bit of notoriety you guys give us and the support you give us goes a long way. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you. And now I'd like to recognize Commissioner Ruane for National Nurses Week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anyone here that's part of the National Nurses, come on up, please. Got to be a lot of nurses here. Wonderful.
Oh, excellent. That's awesome. Good to see you guys.
We've got a crowd.
Yeah, we love seeing that.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's my privilege to read this proclamation. Resolution says, as whereas nearly 4.2 million registered nurses and LPNs in the United States comprise of our nation's largest health professional, creating an unparalleled impact on physical and behavioral health care. And whereas nurses have tirelessly and heroically navigated unprecedented times, provided exemplary care and critical care during COVID-19 pandemic, during Hurricane Ian, while suffering immeasurable losses to themselves. And whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nurses profession is meeting the different and emerging healthcare crisis needs throughout the American population in a wide range of settings, including psychiatric. And whereas professional nursing has been demonstrated to be an indispensable component to the safety and quality of our care of hospital patients and behavioral health. And now, therefore, it is resolved by the Board of County Commissioners, Lee County, Florida, proclaim May 6th to May 12th as National Nurses Week in Lee County, and it's encouraged all citizens to show their appreciation towards the many healthcare workers and dedicate themselves to enhancing the standards of care in our community and the benefit of our citizens and visitors. Signed by our chairman, Brian Hammond, May 2nd.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think we can fit the whole group up here.
Who would be the best recipient of the resolution? Who wants to take the resolution?
Here we go.
Thank
Perfect.
you, ma'am. Come on up. Happy to see so many people.
Yeah.
Squeeze more in the middle, we'll all fit.
Beautiful. And one more for the record here with Sam. Perfect. It's a good looking group. Perfect.
And if I could have one of the individuals speak at the podium, give us a few words, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
I thank you for this honor, Commissioners. I'd like to honor all of our nurses, many of whom have gone above and beyond in providing care to our Lee County community. Our nurses dedicate their time, energy, and heart to help the sick and the vulnerable. They selflessly work on the front lines of our healthcare system, putting their lives at risk to ensure that others receive the care that they need to live healthier and happier lives. They're truly the backbone of our healthcare system, and we owe them our deepest admiration, respect, and gratitude for their tireless efforts and sacrifices. This past year and a half has been a challenging one for our healthcare system, as the pandemic and hurricane have wrought unprecedented disruptions and uncertainties and loss of life. Yet despite great pressure and risk, our nurses have continued to provide exceptional care to all patients in need. They have worked tirelessly to ensure that every patient receive the support, love, and attention and critical care that they deserve, and even when it often means putting their own health and safety on the line. Our nurses have shown immense perseverance, innovating and adapting to new protocols, technologies, and procedures. They've been a beacon of hope in the darkest of times, lifting the spirits of patients, families, and colleagues alike. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to patient care and your unwavering dedication to serving this community. We're proud to honor you with this proclamation, and we hope that you continue to inspire us with your passion, courage, and resilience. Thank you from the daughter of a nurse and a teammate of many. Love to all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruane, and thank you to all of our nurses and everybody who we celebrated today. I appreciate all the good things that everyone does for our community. All right, at this time, I'd like to recognize our Clerk of Courts, Kevin Carnes, for a special presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I come before you today to celebrate a big milestone in the Clerk's office, which is the official closeout of your financial statements for fiscal year 22. I'd like 2 to 3 minutes of your time to briefly go into that report and make a community announcement about a publication that I think is of great benefit to them as taxpayers. So quickly, in my role as county comptroller, it is my job to have a fiduciary responsibility to the county. We do a lot for you as comptroller. We manage your $1.9 billion investment portfolio. We pre-audit all of your expenditures, pay all your debts, pay all your vendors, administer payroll. You can read that slide there, but it takes a lot of team effort and a lot of professionals to make that happen. And all of that is encompassed into the annual comprehensive financial report, which is more commonly known as the ACFR, as the abbreviation has said. This is an award-winning publication. We have received an award from the Government Finance Officers Association for 37 years in a row. And our first annual publication of the Sand Dollar also received an award in 2021. As a summary, fiscal year 2022, this audit is required by Chapter 2018.39. Clifton Allen Larson has been an amazing partner for us, and we have officially closed out the books on fiscal year 22 for all county, port, and clerk finances. And I'm happy to announce with Clifton Allen Larson that there have been no reportable comments or recommendations for improvement. It's the gold seal of approval there. Some financial highlights for the community and for you all to consider. Our total net position at fiscal year end was around $3.3 billion, which is a net increase of 5.3% from last fiscal year. Revenues increased $59.5 million, which is a 4% increase over the last fiscal year. Expenses increased $114 million for a 9.2% increase. And last but not least, the county's debt obligation currently sits at $897 million, which is an increase of 42.5%. It would be remiss for me to say that this was as of close of September 30th. As you all know, Hurricane Ian impacted our community and our financial work on September 28th. So these numbers will look different going into next year, but those are just a few highlights that are mentioned in the ACFR. Special thanks, this is I think the last slide, special thanks to the huge team of professionals that make this happen. Clerk Finance does a phenomenal job going into all the details, working with county staff, working with port staff, working with the county manager, working with the county attorney. I would, if you would indulge me, ask for a huge round of applause for those teams of professionals that put this together. As you all know, finance are more behind the scenes. They're all in the back of the room trying to avoid the public attention. But you have a copy of the annual comprehensive financial report in front of you. It is 225 pages of financial goodness. So if you want some light reading before bed, I would encourage you to read this. It's on our website. But the Sand Dollar is a new publication that my office put together in the last year. It takes the 225 pages or 250 pages of financial obligations and puts them into a 20-page, easy-to-read presentation. I'm happy to report to you all commissioners, this is the very first time that you all are seeing this and that the community is seeing it. It's available on the clerk's website and is a great resource for our community to know how their taxpayer dollars are being spent, how they're being invested, and how they are maintained. I appreciate the time to speak, but I will take any questions or comments that the board may have.
Any comments or questions, commissioners?
Quick question for Kevin. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind going back 4 slides, I think it is. So we'll go, debt obligations 897, that includes us and the Port Authority?
Yes.
Okay. And so that would include the $331 million?
That includes all of it, yes. See,
Yeah, so that includes the big project of obviously expanding over at
the Port Authority.
RSW?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
331 million. Thank you. I just thought that was important.
I was going to say, Kevin, thank you for the great report. And so you said there was no comments from the findings, right?
Yes, sir.
Great report. That includes all the entities under the Port Authority, under the Lee County, Board of County Commissioners, and everything we oversee then?
All 3 financial accounting statements received no reportable comments or suggestions from Clifton Allen Larson.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right. At this time, commissioners, then we'll take up the recap. On the recap, we have under items to be deferred and continued, we have item C33 has been called out, and county administration is asking to defer that to the May 16th board meeting. So commissioners, do I have a motion to make that deferral?
Move the item.
I'll second it.
Okay, Commissioner Pendergrass moves to defer the item, and Commissioner Ruane seconds it. Do we have any discussion on that? Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in public comment on deferring that item? Okay, I see no public comment. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, under revisions and corrections, the administrative staff has asked to move items C11 and C12 to the administrative agenda, so I'll show that without objection added to the administrative agenda. And there's nothing further on the recap that needs to be worked on. All right, at this time, I'd like to take up the consent agenda. Commissioner Greenwald, do you have any items that you'd like to pull for discussion?
I do not, Chairman.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
I do not.
Commissioner?
I do not.
And I have no items I'd like to pull. So at this time, we'll take public comment on the items on the consent agenda. So this would be all the items on the agenda 1 through 44 without items 11 and 12. We've pulled those and moved them to later on in the meeting. Anybody come to speak on the consent agenda items then? Okay, I did have one card that highlighted item number 11, and that would be William Joe Shopmiller, but we'll take that when we get to the administrative agenda. All right, if there's no further comments then on the consent agenda, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, do we have a motion?
Move the Mallons.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion to approve the consent agenda is from Commissioner Ruane, and then the second is from Commissioner Greenwell. Any further discussion? Any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, at this time, let's move to the administrative agenda, and Mr. DeJarlais, we'll start with number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, although these 2 items are on the agenda at the county attorney's request, with his permission, we'd like to share the information with you. It will only take a minute. Mr. Morrow, will you please make the presentation?
Thank you, County Manager. Agenda item number 11 requests a motion to ratify a letter to FEMA authorizing temporary use of FEMA trailer group sites. Lee County zoning ordinance does not permit these temporary uses on the subject properties. However, local zoning regulations may be waived under certain circumstances in accordance with Florida law. The letter was executed by the county.
I apologize, let me interrupt. So you're talking about item 11 then? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just so for the record, then, we're on item 11, C11. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Morris.
My apologies.
Yep, no worries.
The letter was executed by the county manager in accordance with section 25(2.38. The use of the subject properties for temporary FEMA trailer siting shall cease no later than 18 months after the date of the authorization letter. This deadline is subject to extension by the county. A local development order must be obtained from the county approving the construction and placement of the trailers and associated infrastructure. Upon expiration of the temporary use, the subject properties must be remediated and brought back into compliance with all local regulations. Since issuance of the letter on April 7th, only the properties located at 10300 Stringfellow Road and 9901 Gladiolas Drive are still being pursued by FEMA. These properties are in addition to the property previously ratified by the board known as Heritage Heights. FEMA has been successful in housing displaced residents in commercial parks, over 193 households, and on private sites, 203 households, and through direct lease, 238 households, which has reduced the number of units needed at group sites. Staff are available as well as FEMA representatives, Commissioners, if you have any questions in regards to this item.
Commissioners, any questions at this time on this item? Mr. Moore, I had just one question. Do we have any sense of, obviously, we're now 7 months past the storm. Do we have any sense of how many people are still waiting for FEMA housing that currently don't have an alternative?
I'm not aware of any, but we do have our FEMA representatives here that will be able to share us with the most updated numbers of people that have applied for housing. We do have Josie Genoa from FEMA that can answer that question for us, Commissioners.
Would she, if she's here, would she, would you like to come up and answer them? Okay, I was going to say, you didn't look like a Josie.
Commissioners, while the gentleman's coming to the podium, the reason we've asked to move these two items to the administrative agenda is because it's a demonstration of the partnership between the County Commission, FEMA, and in agenda item number 12 with Habitat for Humanity. You are adjusting zoning to allow for these FEMA trailers. There was some talk in the early days following the storm that was one of the impediments, but this is clear demonstration of your willingness to do that so that we can get some temporary housing for the Ian victims.
Excellent. Okay, good deal. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, members of the board. My name is Matthias Mandigo. I'm the Operations Tech Chief over Direct Housing. To answer your question right now, for Lee County, we have 819 have been applicants approved to direct housing. Out of those, 675 have been licensed to temporary housing units, which leaves us of a delta of 144 applicants left to be housed at this time.
Okay, good deal. And so the sites that we're going to approve today, are those options for the 144 then?
That is correct. We're going to really start focusing on Deep Blue, which is at Stringfellow and St. James. That's our primary. The other site was going to be archived. We are still in EHP review with Shippo and Tippo for Deep Blue, and should be coming out. The Fonzie or REC should be received by May 18th.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other comments or anything else you want to add?
Nothing to add.
Appreciate the partnership.
Thank you so much.
Very good. All right, Commissioners, if there's no further comments at this time, then I'll open up to public comment. We have Mr. William Joe Schottmiller who would like to speak on this item. Go ahead and come forward, sir. And just for everybody, when you do approach the podium, no need to touch the microphone. It's all set, ready to go.
I am William Joseph Schottmiller. I noticed that Ortez and Luckett Road are on the East Fort Myers area. There is a lot of trailer subdivisions in there. You got Ortez that has Jupiter Mars. You got in that area, you got Nuna that has trailer sites, land and sites, and some of them are vacant. So the thing about the FEMA trailers is, I've seen FEMA trailers rehab, like especially, or any mobile home, like on Ortez. I've noticed they look like houses. They don't look like trailers anymore, like on Mars and Jupiter off of Ortez. So my thing was, can FEMA trailers be purchased and left on the land and then revise them, give them the facelift to make them look like some of the homes on that. So it is a subdivision in that area of mobile homes. I see some sites that are vacant. I see trailers that are very run down that could be rehabbed. And I know personally somebody that does day labor that's looking for a place to park her RV. So, and they can't afford the $700, $800 a lot of the trailer parks want for just parking a travel trailer, So we need housing for the homeless, but we need it for the people that are out there doing day labor and that came down here to assist with the hurricane and are just working to make a living. So anything available that could be purchased or from FEMA, like the trailers, but mainly the land to put it on. So I have a busy day today, so I won't be staying, but we need emergency housing for all people that are homeless, either by, not by choice, and the ones that aren't, get them into job training. You know, we got a lot of drug addiction out there, and working together, we can do something. So y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Schottmiller. Okay, I see we have another speaker who would like to speak on this item. Yeah, please go ahead and then just hand it to the clerk. Perfect.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Swisher Hicks. I'm the president of the Greater Pine Island Civic Association. I want to definitely thank Commissioner Romaine for his assistance on the island. It has been greatly appreciated, and his presence has been known. I do want to say I'm glad to hear that the Harbor Drive address has been tabled off to the side, because that's a very remote part of the island, and some of the infrastructure that would be needed for FEMA trailers is not very conducive for the island. When it comes to the Stringfellow, please, we do request that you try to keep the allowed density for the property as it is. Please do not increase it, because it may be more difficult after the emergency is over to bring it back down to as the Pine Island plan is set for the island. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Good.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak on, this is item number C11. It's the item about the FEMA trailer group sites. Okay, I see no further speakers, so we'll close public comment at this time. Commissioners, any further discussion? Commissioner Ruane?
So I'd like to move this item, but to obviously the speaker's comments, we're more than aware of it. We're working very closely with FEMA. There's another potential site that could give even additional housing above and beyond this. It's just working a little bit slower. With that in mind, I'll move this item.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane. Second from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have any further comments? No further discussion then? All right, are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Desjardins, can you introduce item number 12?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 12, we're asking you to confirm and ratify temporary access and easement agreement for the Heritage Heights FEMA project. Mr. Moore, will you please present the item?
Thank you, Roger. Again, as the county manager stated, this is a great example of partnership between nonprofits, FEMA, and the county. This is a location located at Kelly Park, which is a Habitat for Humanity site. It provides access to FEMA temporary housing site known as Heritage Heights. Heritage Heights will be developed with 59 units to house displaced Lee County residents.
Excellent. Any questions, commissioners, on this one? All right, I see no questions. Does anybody wish to speak in public comment on item 12? All right, I see no hands and no public comment, so we'll close public comment. Would somebody like to make a motion on this item?
Second.
Okay. Motion from Commissioner Pendergrass and the seconds from Commissioner Ruane. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, let's take up item number 1 on the administrative agenda. Mr. Desjardins, would you please introduce that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 1 on the administrative agenda, we're asking you to approve a draw from the Bank of America line of credit for the Hurricane Ian recovery. Mr. Winton, please present the item.
Commissioners, you approved this line of credit last year after Hurricane Ian. It is intended to pay for emergency work and permanent repairs for cash flow purposes until we get reimbursed by the appropriate federal agencies, primarily FEMA. Today, what we're asking for is to approve the first draw on this, which is $20 million. We've paid about $120 million in expenses for Ian already, and we have done that through cash advances from FEMA insurance as well as from internal capacity. I do want to say that our intention is not to draw this $20 million immediately. We believe there's still capacity within our county funds with reserves in areas where we will not be using that cash for the short term, like up to 12 months. So we would look at doing internal loans first, and before we take out the first draw, we would let you know when we're going to do it and what the purpose of it is going to be.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions on this item? No? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call for public comment on administrative agenda item 1. Would anybody like to speak in public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, move it.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell.
Second that.
Second from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have any further discussion on the item? All right, I see no further discussion. Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 2, Mr. County Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 2, we are requesting your approval for a construction contract for the chiller line replacements. Ehab, will you please make the presentation?
Good morning. Ehab Gerges Construction Management. This item is to replace the chiller system we have in Old Courthouse and Admin Building. The system is about 63 years old. It's at the end of its life time. We are going to hire Gilbane to replace that system. The cost is about $4 million, and it will take about 12 months to finish the job.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions at this time on this item? No? Just real quick, I know you've all probably thought about it already, but with the historic character and nature of the building, do you have plans to work around that to make sure that nothing's disturbed and everything's preserved?
Yes, we are, and actually we are going to take advantage of the month of July when the activity in this building is very minimum, so we can do most of the work for this building.
Excellent.
Yep.
Good deal. All right, well, seeing no further comments or questions from commissioners, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Has anybody come to speak on this item? Okay, I see no comments on this item. Commissioners, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the item.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell and the seconds from Commissioner Pendergrass. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. County Manager, please introduce item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 3, we're requesting approval of construction contract for the tax collector relocation project. Mr. Gerges, please make the presentation.
Ehab Gerges Construction Management. This item to approve a contract with Gilbane to remodel and finish about 10,200 square feet in our East Lee County Government Center. This work will include walls, flooring, ceiling, lighting system, and technology. The cost is about $2.7 million, and with your approval, construction will start in 2 to 4 weeks, and it will take about 8 months to finish the job.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions on this item? Okay, I see no questions. I'll open the floor to public comment. Has anyone come to speak on this item? Okay, I see no hands, so we'll close public comment. Any further discussion, commissioners? Would someone like to make a motion?
Move the item.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Pendergrass, second from Commissioner Ruane. I see no further discussion. Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, and Mr. Desjardins, please introduce item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 4, we're requesting approval for the replacement of Little Pine Island Bridge. Mr. Price, please make the presentation.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Rob Price with DOT. Admin item number 4 is a follow-up item from the April 18th, 2023 workshop. DOT asked the Commissioners for direction on whether to incorporate a repair versus a full replacement of the Little Pine Island Bridge now as a part of FDOT's work to restore Matlacha. The full replacement of the bridge is expected to cost $7.65 million based on estimates from FDOT's contractor. The county would be responsible for a maximum of $4.17 million of that cost, with the balance covered by Federal Highway Administration. The bridge was already slated for replacement in 2027 at a cost estimated to be $14.4 million. Full replacement of that bridge now under FDOT's contract would save the county money and also limit the amount of time that traffic will be impacted on Pine Island Road through Matlacha. Staff would ask the board to confirm the direction given at the workshop to replace the bridge now under FDOT's contract. We're here for any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Ruane.
Rob, what's your time frame and when this might start, when it might stop?
So the bridge is going to have to go through permitting. It's expected to start construction sometime next spring with the plan hopefully after Easter. That's when we would start the lane closures.
Do you think, so that's a great, I appreciate that. So you'll start after Easter and then hopefully have it wrapped up before season starts again.
Yeah, it would take about 4 months. The impact of traffic will take 4 months. Total construction, they're expecting about 8 months.
Excellent. Any further questions, commissioners? No? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Price. At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment on the Little Pine Island Bridge item. Has anyone come to speak on that today? Okay, great. Please come forward. And if you would, again, state your name for the record.
Hello again. My name is Deborah Swisher Hicks. I'm president of the Greater Pine Island Civic Association. I'm just coming to speak with you regarding the replacement of the bridge. We fully support and thank you for considering the complete replacement rather than just a repair. I also appreciate FDOT for doing the construction during off the season. And we look forward to the new bridge to also have the ability to have a multi-use pass on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments on this item? Okay, I see none, so we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion. I also would just put on the table for everyone that we should consider, like we did with all the other bridges, to go back to Tallahassee and see if they'd pick up the 20%. I'll move the item.
Excellent. So Commissioner Ruane moves the item for approval. Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Any further discussion on that item? No? Okay, very good. Any objections to the motion? I see no objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, let's introduce item number 5, please, Mr. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 5 on the administrative agenda is a utilities item, and we're asking you to direct to public hearing a resolution to adopt adjusted utility rate schedule. Ms. Keys, please present the item.
Thank you. Good morning. Pam Keys with Lee County Utilities. Today, staff will be asking you to choose one of 2 options for rate adjustments, which were discussed during the April 4th board work session. We're also asking you authorization to advertise to have a public hearing on June 20th to adopt a resolution to be implemented July 1st.
Okay, so if I'm hearing that right, then the motion should include which option you'd like to see brought to public hearing, the 8% flat increases or the tapered increases?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, do you have any questions for our county administration at this time? Okay, I see no questions. I'll open the floor for public comment at this time. Has anyone come to speak on the utility rate schedule and directing this item to a public hearing? Okay, I see no comments, so we'll come back to the board. Commissioners, any discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year tapered plan from 12% down to 4% annually.
Okay, so we have a motion for the tapered plan. Do we have a second?
Second for the public comment, public hearing.
Okay, so we have a second from Commissioner Pendergrass, and the motion was from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have any further discussion on that item? Okay. I had one question. So if we do advertise for the taper, does that mean that we would be unable to discuss the 5-year flat at 8%?
The intent today is to choose the option for advertisement. So I think today we are looking for that direction.
Chairman, also, if I may, I would be more than glad to discuss that. If the board feels the 8% makes more sense, I would definitely be open to considering that as well. Maybe after public comment, we could make a decision on it.
Yeah, and we did call for public comment, and nobody came forward. So now is the time for board discussion if we'd like to have that. I mean, I personally, was leaning towards the 8% flat. It seemed like it was less of an increase on the average monthly bill. I guess they're both going to at the end increase by about the same, but it just seemed like the monthly was a little less in the initial years. But I'm open to will of the board on this.
And I'm probably in the same vein as you are, Commissioner Hammond, the 8%. I do, I've been familiar with this. You all did a wonderful job of not having any type of increases for a number of years. In Sanibel, we had increases every single year. So I applaud you for all the money you saved the taxpayers. We did that. If I'm not mistaken, we can set this rate, obviously, at the 8%, and if we got into year 4 and seemed like we had additional flexibility, we have the option to lower that amount, right? This would be the highest amount, but that's just setting the expectation for the resident, understanding that it'll be no more than 8, but we could actually come in lower than 8. Is that correct? Okay. I'd like to actually go with the more consistent at 8%. That's my own personal opinion.
Okay, back to the motion maker. Any comments?
I'm willing to withdraw my motion and change it to the 8% if the board feels, I feel like that's more where the board's leaning.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't get too many opportunities to discuss this, where we have to do it publicly, but I believe that that makes sense. So I think either one makes sense. We get to the bottom line, but I do agree with the fact that it's more consistent. So I'd like to change my motion to the 8% annually.
Okay, so the motion for the tapered has been withdrawn, and a motion for approval of the 8% annually has been made. And then the second is from Commissioner Pendergrass as well. So we have a motion and a second for the 5-year 8% annually. Do we have any further discussion on that item?
The only thing I'd want to put on the record, honestly, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is that this is obviously our responsibility. I know we all work really hard to save the taxpayer money, so every year we'll have the opportunity to look at staff, to look at the reserves we have, to see what the collections are, see what revenues are, and then make our determination. But at least we set the bar for the taxpayer to understand exactly what it is. So I just want that for the record, because many times when I was in Sanibel, we set it at a higher number and came in at a lower number. I can tell our citizens really appreciate that.
Very good. Thanks, Commissioner.
No
All right.
problem.
Any further discussion? I see no further discussion. Are there any objections? No objections, then that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. At this time, we'll move to the public hearing agenda, and I'd like to recognize the County Attorney's Office for the first item.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Halverson, County Attorney's Office. I have your first 3 public hearings this morning. These items have been duly advertised, and I provided the 3 affidavits of publication to the clerk. Item 1 is a petition to vacate the public's interest in a portion of the unimproved public utility easement centered along a common property lot line between lots 10 and 15 of the lots at 5 Hamilton Avenue in Lehigh Acres. There are no objections, and staff's available for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions on this item? Okay, I see no questions. At this time, I'll open the floor for public comment on public hearing item number 1. Has anyone come to speak on that item? I see no speakers, so we'll close public comment. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell, and the second is from Commissioner Ruane. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce public hearing item number 2.
Item 2 is a petition to vacate the public's interest in the portion of the unimproved public utility easement centered along the common property lot line between lots 10 and 11 of the lots at 1304 Truman Avenue in Lehigh. There are no objections, and staff's available for any questions.
Good deal. Any questions or comments, Commissioners? Okay, I'll open the floor for public comment. This is public hearing number 2. Has anyone come to speak on that item? Okay, I see no speakers, so we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
Motion, move the item.
I'll second that.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell, and the seconds from Commissioner Ruane. Any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 3.
Once again, item 3 is a petition to vacate the public's interest in a portion of the unimproved public utility easement centered along the common property lot line between lots 23 and 24 of the lots at 111 Connecticut Road in Lehigh. There are no objections, and staff's available for any questions.
Any questions, Commissioners? All right, I'll open the floor for public comment. Does anybody want to speak on public hearing number 3? Okay, we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the item.
Motion from Commissioner Greenwell, second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. And please introduce public hearing number 4.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Joe Adams with the County Attorney's Office. This hearing's been properly advertised and have the affidavit for your clerk. This is a hearing to repeal Ordinance 0026 and adopt the construction license ordinance. This ordinance was drafted in response to the state's preemption of occupational licensing, and it grandfathers in the existing local contractor licenses allowable per state law. So if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions on this item? Commissioner Greenwell?
I don't really have a question, but I would like to say, staff, thank you for working so hard on this for such a long time, that it's so important for our people in our community that help build this community to have some stability and know that they're going to be able to continue to work here. So I want to thank y'all and commend you for what a great job you did working on this, and I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Amen. Any other comments, Commissioners? Okay. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. We did have one card from a Mr. Alan Bills. Mr. Bills, if you're with us. There you go. Morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing today?
I don't have a whole lot to say except thank you for all your support that you've been giving me. It's been quite a little while. And to Richard over here, everybody's been really great. And hopefully this all continues to go forward. And with this new bill that they popped out, hopefully they'll have a little bit more time to give it a little bit more consideration. Not very comfortable with all the licenses that they are removing. I think it's going to have quite an effect on the community as a whole, leaving a lot of people very unprepared, not going to know about insurance, they're not going to know about a lot of things. So I think, again, the community is going to really take a hit on these licenses being removed. And I just hope they kind of come to their senses a little bit and clarify things. So hopefully that'll happen. I guess that's all I got to say. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
I do
Gross.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak in public comment on this public hearing regarding the construction license ordinance? Okay, we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
Move the item.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Pendergrass and the seconds from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. And please introduce public hearing number 5. Morning.
Good morning. Andrea Fraser for the County Attorney's Office. I have before me your public hearing number 5. I've had an opportunity to review the affidavit of publication and find it legally sufficient in form and content to proceed with this public hearing. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions on this item? Okay, I see no questions. I'll open the floor for public comment. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on the child safety zone public hearing? Okay, we'll close public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
Move the item.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Pendergrass, second from Commissioner Ruane. Any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, that concludes our public hearing agenda. We have no walk-ons and carryovers that have been noted on the recap, so we'll move to commissioner items at this time. Commissioner Greenwell, do you have any items?
I do not.
No, none today. Commissioner Pendergrass, any items?
No item.
Okay. Commissioner Ruane, any items for today?
Yeah, sorry. Apologize.
No worries.
I was in a fog. So the third meeting of the task force met on the 28th. It was 7 months in. We obviously discussed in the CBDGR. To date, we've had 5 workshops. Last night I was at Sanibel's, had over 100 people there. And I guess really the questions that are left open as we continue to go through and talk to the community is not only that what we want to do with this grant, but what's our capital improvements look like for the next 5 years? And what are we willing to do for resiliency? That seems to be a question that continues to come up. The branches have had their third meetings as they start. The interest in the branches continue at a record pace where we're at capacity at most of the branches. If we continue to add people onto it, I encourage everyone to go to resiliently.com, our website. Finally, I obviously have a new set of nominations that's on the list, consistent with what I've done before. Said list I'll hand over to you to add on to the branches, so you have that. The second thing that I wanted to bring to the Commissioner's attention is I hung up with the phone with Chris Cheney this morning, and through the budget, we've actually prevailed. I sent each one of you an email, as well as Roger DiGiale, as well as Richard, our county attorney, and all the items that we were hoping for were in there, from Big Hickory to Little Hickory to the Sanibel Bridge to obviously the Pine Island Bridge, various improvements, traffic signs, street lights, things of that nature, as well as beach renourishment and beach restoration, including a catch-all grant for $350 million. So the legislative process really worked very well. Talking with Chris, and one of the things that the legislators asked, specifically Senator Albritton, who heads up resiliency, as we compile a capital improvement project that we need for Lee County as a region, what does it look like? The storm came at a really unusual time. It was the end of September. There was an early, quick legislative session. We all scrambled around and put what we might need. The legislators really want to help us. The good news is that we're really trending in sales tax, and they're aware from various reports that they're going to collect some $7 billion, greater than what anticipated, and 30% of that's coming from Lee County. So that's really, astonishing. It's worked out to be a great session. I commend all the commissioners for obviously moving in a direction with Cademus and partners. They were wonderful in getting appointments. Key legislative appointments were consistent. Key conversations were consistent. And I do believe that's why our success, as I was talking to Chris today, I didn't really have a plan B to come up with some $80 million if we didn't get the bridge paid for. When you look at the catastrophic impacts they are. But I think the legislators have let it known that they want to help us. We just need to put a plan together. Obviously, from a region point of view, what do we need? What capital improvement projects do we look like we need to talk about? So happy that the legislative process is. I can't imagine the governor's going to veto any hurricane items, but it's the cooling off period right now that we're going through. I think that's really essential that we recognize that. And those are my comments from the Long-Term Recovery Task Force.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Yeah, Commissioner Greenwald.
Chairman. First, Kevin, thank you. I don't think people realize the additional load that you've taken on to do this. And obviously, that was the intent from the beginning, to have someone else out fighting for Lee County, and you've done a great job doing that and bringing the mayors and everybody together, as well as Tallahassee, and working with the staff. So thank you. I think people would need to realize what you've taken on. You've done a great job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Giger.
If I may just add to the report. Last week, we, Mr. Salyer and Winton and several staff members were in Chicago for HUD training. Yeah, as you all know, spending these dollars is going to be a really complex process and will require very meticulous documentation so that we don't end up with an audit situation where the federal government starts to claw money back, some years down the road. We now know a great deal more about the rules of engagement than we did a couple weeks ago. And so as this event continues to unfold, we'll be sure to keep the board briefed up on, what you can expect and what's next in the schedule.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, just one other thing. I mean, I really would be remiss not to really go out and thank our local delegation, the type of service they did. I mean, all the way through up to the Senate President, but the amount of time that they gave us, their attention, and honestly would not have been able to get these items funded without them. So big kudos to them, from our entire local delegation all the way through. I just really would want to go out of my way one more time to thank them.
Extremely appropriate. I mean, we know that Lee County's delegation, our House members and our senators are very influential in the Florida legislature. We're so grateful that we have them at a time like this when the county absolutely needs them, and for the work and effort they put in. And Commissioner, I'd like to also publicly acknowledge your efforts. A lot of extra travel, a lot of extra hours, and we really appreciate what you've done. And I just want to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, if that concludes your commissioner items, we'll move to committee appointments. Commissioner Greenwald, any appointments?
I do not.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
Yes, I have one reappointment, Kyle Philpott for the Eagle Technical.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Pendergrass, second from Commissioner Ruane. Any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, motion carries unanimously. I have no appointments today. Commissioner Ruane?
I have two new appointments to the Flamingo Bay Street Lighting Unit. I have Kent Kluger and Maureen Hagen. And then for a reappointment is Rebecca Patterson.
Very good. So we have a motion from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have a second from Commissioner Pendergrass? Do we have any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right. At this time, we will turn to county manager items. So, Mr. Desjardins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At our last meeting, we committed to give you a brief update on the Civic Center, and just short and sweet, all the events that are currently scheduled between today and October 1st will take place on the current schedule. And none of them have to be canceled. On October 1st, as we continue to learn more about the condition of the Civic Center, it would be our desire to self-perform the needed repairs. That provides a little more flexibility to work around future scheduling of events. And then after October 1, if we're unable to self-perform, because the projects are beyond our internal capabilities or because of cost, we'll have to hire a construction manager at risk, which will be a procurement process and take some period of time. But that's the plan for going forward with all the needed repairs that you've approved so far. And then we will schedule a workshop sometime in the next month, as you've instructed, so that we can talk with you about the results from the online public survey, with the kinds of activities that the people would like to see on that property, and then hopefully at that time you'll have some thoughts that you can share with us about a future process for, redevelopment or however that's going to go. And then lastly, yesterday, Ms. Brady sent an email, copied you, asking the Fair Board, and respectfully, not to schedule events after October 2023. With the exception of the fair, and if you'll recall, you've already instructed us to negotiate with the Fair Board for timing and conditions of that fair to take place later in the year. That's our report today, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions on the county manager report? Commissioner Pendergrass?
Workshop on before the summer break, you think?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Okay, very good. Any further questions, comments? And that concludes your county manager report?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Very good. At this time, we'll go to County Attorney's Office. Mr. County Attorney, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Nothing further for the board's consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, we'll turn to public presentation of matters by citizens. I have a few cards that have been turned in. The first card is from Fran Crone, and then after Fran Crone, we'll call up Brad Maloney. Morning.
Good morning. I would just like to say thank you on the behalf of our board and staff for allowing us to proceed with the businesses and the events that have not canceled already due to what has happened. There are a few events that are scheduled. You'll have Meals of Hope is a huge food packing event that's in December every year. There's a couple of other things that there are contracts on. We will make sure that they have the appropriate contact number to work with you. But we just want to say thank you. This is big since we are maintaining the property, that we can still have some type of a revenue stream. So I appreciate you working with us on that. And other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crone.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I know this is unusual, but just a request for Ms. Crone to send us copies of those contracts that go beyond October 1. Right, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call Brad Maloney.
Thanks, Brian, but I'll pass for this time.
Okay, very good. So the speaker waives his time. And the last card I have is from Stan Mitchell. Slan? Good morning.
Yes, how's everybody doing? Everybody looks fine and, at the park. I just want to say, I'm sorry about my appearance and things happen and it's not really my fault. I'm also feeling that it's ironic that some of us out there at as transient, and whenever I think about it, a lot of us lost our places because of certain silly reasons, and me and my friends, we sometimes laugh about these situations, that we're top notch at the list. But I'm just saying, in the future, please try and help out the homeless. Basically, I'm here because it's the trolleys that are going out of business for a while, and I just want to say I got into a little accident and the trauma, and you know, I was shaking in the legs and everything, and it was the trolley that helped me out. I always joke with the guy that that's around, you know, and I say, listen, you got some big windshield wipers there, you know, but I hope you could just skid off the bat sometimes and see where you know you go. Anyway, I just want to say that's what basically I was here for. But you know, I thank you, and you know, they also have tourists and kids out there, and who's a shell grape. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. All right. Any further comments today? Has anyone else come to speak in public comment? All right, I see no further speakers. At this time, we'll close public comment and we'll move to the workshop update. Mr. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This afternoon at 1:30, the workshop will be on the topic of budget assumptions for the fiscal year 23-24.
Very good. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to public comment on the workshop. This will be your time to talk on today's workshop regarding the budget. Anybody wish to speak on that? Okay, we'll close public comment then, seeing no speakers. At this time, I see no further business before us, so we're adjourned.